Hey everyone, I was going to make a video to show everyone basic skate maintenance. I play roller hockey, so I'll be using a roller hockey skate to show this video. These are Mission AC5 inhalers. If you have any inline skate, this will pretty much be the exact same experience. I went ahead and disassembled one skate just so I could save time, but I will show you how to remove the wheel from the chassis, how to disassemble the bearing from the wheel, and how to clean the bearing. So the first step, you're going to want your key tool. See this? This usually comes with any inline skate, especially hockey skates. They always come with some sort of tool. If you didn't get one, you can usually use a hex key or a hex wrench. Just have to find the right size. I don't remember exactly what it is offhand, but you can buy these tools. They're pretty much universal. They cost about $7 from various sites that sell inline equipment. For hockey, for instance, you have Hockey Giant, Hockeytron, Inline Warehouse, etc. Plenty of stores. You can go to Play Against Sports, Sports Authority, Dick's Sporting Goods. Any place that sells inline skates should have this tool that will get your wheel off. So the first thing you do, take your skate, and when you take your skate, you'll see that one side will have a hole for the tool, the other side will just be embedded into the chassis. All you need to do is put it into that hole and turn. That will loosen the bolt. I put my thumb on the other side to keep the other end of the bolt held in. Turn, and the screw should come out. Once that comes out, you want to get the other end out. Take the same tool, put it in the hole where the screw was, and it should easily pop out the other end of the bolt. Now your wheel is free from the chassis. Do that for all four wheels. If you have a high-low setup, I should have mentioned this earlier. For instance, this skate has a high-low setup. The front two wheels are smaller than the back two wheels. You'll want to make sure you put the wheels in the same spot when you put it back on, or at least put them, if you're going to rotate them, make sure you put the smaller wheels on the front and the bigger wheels in the back. If you rotate them, you'll just want to swap the spots and flip them, or move them to the other skate, but you want to flip them in reverse. I'll make another video on that. It's pretty simple. So here you can see I have all four wheels disassembled from this skate. I have the front wheel, second, third, fourth. These are both 76, these are both 80s. These wheels have a little bit of life left in them, not much, but they'll get me at least another weekend of outdoor skating in. So, but as you can see, they're filthy. They have dirt, grime, just lubricant that's leaked out of the bearing, everything else. So they really need to be cleaned. So if you need to get these bearings out in order to clean them properly. So the first thing that you want to do is take the same tool that we had earlier. It's got a little notch here, and that notch is the exact size to fit in the wheel, but stop on the spacer. And the spacer is this little guy, and he sits between the two bearings like this inside the wheel. And what that does is keep the two bearings locked together for less friction. You get a smoother ride, it rides on the axle. I know people who have never used spacers before and their wheels were terrible. They did not roll very well, they rolled off balance, just very sloppy wheel setup. I gave them a set of spacers and their wheels spun 10 times better than they did before. So anyway, back to getting this bearing out. Take your tool, put it in the wheel, hold it like so, push two hands, and that bearing will pop out of the one side. And you'll see that the spacer also popped out. To get the other bearing out, just put the tool on that side and just gently wiggle it back and forth, and it should just come right out. So once you've done that, you'll have two bearings and a spacer. These bearings, as long as they're in decent condition, not rusted, anything like that, you can just stack them because we're going to be cleaning them. So I'm going to set my wheels to the side and just go ahead and knock this out for the other existing wheels. If a spacer gets stuck in the bearing when you take it out, you can just flip the bearing and do the exact same thing to get the spacer out. Sometimes it's a pain. If it is a pain, you can put it back in the wheel like this and just push it from the other way, and that should get it out. Sometimes it'll push it right back into the other bearing, but usually by then you've loosened it up enough so it'll just come right out. And then you just have to do the wiggle again to get it out. I've been doing this on inline skates and skateboards since I was probably about 7 years old. My first pair of skates. Was really big into customizing my standard rollerblade skates. When I first learned how to inline, I got some, I think they were ABEC 5 Killer Bees. That was like the big bearing brand that they sold at, I think it was Played Again, and my dad bought me a set of them, and I remember him buying me a citrus bearing cleaner kit, and that was something that he taught me how to clean my wheels and take care of everything. Unfortunately, these bearings aren't as good as they were, and I won't be able to show you that in depth of cleaning that I learned, but we can at least get all this grime off that you see in this video right now. So I've got all of the bearings out. I actually accidentally removed the bearings from this extra wheel I took off the front skate, which is fine because I need to do that one anyway. But we're going to go ahead and hold off. I'm going to take those two bearings, put them to the side, because the bearing cleaner kit will only hold enough bearings for one skate at a time. Alright, so now that you have your bearings out of your wheel, you'll see all that grime on them. Hold a little closer, hopefully it's in focus. Honestly, what I like to do, try to wipe off some of that excess grime, because it really doesn't need to be in there to contaminate your cleaner. It doesn't look as bad now, but whatever's on the outside, some of it's probably on the inside. You're spinning it, you can hear it kind of gritty, kind of like sandpaper, just a tad. I cleaned these not too long ago, but just with the rink I play on is kind of dusty, so this happens. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wipe off all these bearings before putting it into the cleaner. That way we know that we're cleaning mostly inside the bearing, not outside of the bearing. But these bearings are pretty decent though. They were cheap ABEC 7, I believe. Yeah, ABEC 7s. I got them from Hockeytron. I think they were maybe like 20 bucks, if that. But they've lasted pretty good. They spin well. So once you've done that, in this scenario, I'm ready to clean them. Just because of the type of bearing I have. So all bearings have this metal shield on them, and these you can't take off without pretty much destroying the shield. There's no way to remove them and clean them. This one bearing that came in the set had a damaged shield and was keeping the bearing from spinning, so I actually removed it. This isn't a good idea, but the shield was keeping the bearing from spinning, and I didn't feel like dealing with the return policy and everything else. So I just removed the shield. I put it on the inside of the wheel, so the outside wall was facing the outside of the skate, and it seems to be fine. It's still spinning, still spins pretty well. I clean them. This one's probably going to get a better clean than any of the other ones because the shield is off. So typically on a better pair of bearings, you'll take off the shields so they look like this. You'll see the ball bearings on the inside, and that'll allow your solution to really get inside there, and it will allow you to lubricate the ball bearing much better once you have cleaned off all the gunk. So with that being said, I bought this Bones bearing cleaner set. It's essentially something you can make at home. I didn't realize how simple it was, but what it essentially is a bottle with a bolt through the top of it that has little spacers and a little wing nut on it that will hold your bearings in place while you fill this bottle up with solution and shake it. And when you shake it, it's keeping the bearings isolated, and then you're shaking the bottle up, which is then getting all that debris out of the bearing and, you know, cleaning it out and letting gravity kind of do its thing for that. So I'm going to go ahead and get the bearings ready, and when we get that done, we will be able to start. Alright, so now that I got the wing nut off and all the spacers off, I'm going to take the cap with the bolt on it. I'm going to put one bearing on at a time and then put a spacer on. Spacer are these little metal rings you'll see. Put another bearing on, spacer, and then just keep doing that until I'm done. And once I'm done doing this, we can fill the bottle up and clean the bearings off. So, not a fun process, but definitely necessary if you want to keep your bearings in good condition, have the best speed you can get out of them, and just so you don't have to keep buying bearings. So once you're done, look like that. You have all your bearings suspended. You know, they spin on the bolt. Everything's nice. Tighten your wing nut. Put that on the end. Take your bottle. I'm using natural orange. Some people say that they don't like using it. Some people say they love using it. I use it. I have no problems using it. You obviously don't want to use water. You don't want to use soap. You don't want to use anything that's water-based. This has no issue in any time I've used it. So you don't want to use WD-40 because WD-40 can ruin your bearings. You can use them, it'll loosen it up, but if you do use it, you want to absolutely make sure you clean them after using WD-40 and then re-lubricate your bearing. Otherwise, you will, you know, basically destroy your bearing. Plus, if you have plastic pieces inside your bearings, which some of the more higher end ones do, they will just destroy them. So you want to fill it up about halfway to 3/4 of a way. Put the top back on with your bearings in it, tighten the lid, and shake it. You're just going to shake it for a little bit, and then that's just, it's basically going to turn black. The orange is going to start turning black from all the crap that's in your wheels. And then you'll see how dirty everything really was. And you can see my paper towel, which was white, is just gross. You can see my bolts are covered in this. Most of this is the lubrication I have in my skates. I have this Tri-Flow Teflon bearing lubricant I have. And I also have some BSB speed cream. Or not speed cream, this is just some lube from BSB I have. Most of this is stuff I've had from when I was skateboarding in high school. And, you know, that was like 10 years ago, but it still works. It does its job. I had some other speed cream as well, but that didn't seem to work. Or I ran out of it, can't find it. So this works, gets the job done. So when you're done with this, you want to go just take the top off, pour it out. And you should be good. You might want to do it once or twice as well. But you can see the color of that bottle is now a dark brown compared to the nice shiny orange. So it's pretty good. Alright, once you've dumped that out, you should have some nice shiny bearings that are nice. They spin real well, a lot better than they did a minute ago with all that crap on them. And then you know, you're gonna make a mess. Everything's gonna be soaked in the natural orange. At this point, I basically just dry everything off best I can, set them to the side. You can see the bearing spins very well, and you can hear it's pretty much metal on metal at this point. But that just means we have a clean bearing. I spin them just to kind of loosen up anything that might be stuck in them. Like I said, these bearings, they don't let me remove the shield, so I'm not getting the best cleaning that we could possibly get, but it's not bad. Definitely better than having all that crap built up on the outside and on the inside. And we can re-lubricate it as well just by soaking the outer shield, and that lubrication will soak into the bearing. It will get the job done. So we'll cover that here in a second. We'll also want to clean our wheels as well. You can run your wheels, just your wheel itself, in the water. That doesn't matter. I've washed them in water. I usually just wipe the hubs off with a paper towel just to try to get any dirt out of there, because we don't want dirt to get on our freshly cleaned bearings right away. Not to say that as soon as you play outdoors or indoors again, your bearings aren't going to get dirty again, but it's definitely something to think about. So now we have a nice shiny set of bearings over here. Can move this dirty paper towel out of the way. Slide this nice one into view. A very nice clean set of bearings right there. So as I was saying, you can just take your wheel, and this is a little wet from drying everything off, but I just take that, wipe your hub out like that. Takes 2 seconds to do that, not a big deal. Just do that for all the wheels. Especially like this one's like filthy. If you get any dirt, just kind of, make sure you don't do it over your clean bearings. Do it over to the side, out of the way. I don't have a lot of room I'm working with, but gets the job done. There we go. So now all my wheels are, decently clean. And I also want to wipe off the spacers as well. Just a little rub, you'll see all the gunk on them. But you should have 4 of them, 1 for each wheel. You also want to wipe off your bolts too, might as well at this point. You've already gotten, deep into it. Just go ahead and clean everything up. Like I said, most of this is just dirty lubrication from the previous time I did this. But it's a necessary evil. It takes time. But if you want to keep everything going, got to do it, just like a car. So at this point, you can go ahead and start reassembling your wheels. And easiest way to do that, take one bearing, put it on the wheel, put it flat on the table, push down until you hear it pop into place. Now the wheel's in that bearing. Take your spacer, put the spacer in flat like that. Take another bearing, and you can either push it down flat with your hand, it should just pop right in, and you're good. Or you can flip it over and do the same thing on the table. That should take care of it. You can also use another wheel, use another bearing to push down to get leverage. You can use the side of the tool to push down. You can use any tool that you have at your disposal to push down. So this wheel is done, good to go. Nice and clean, spins. One thing I actually forgot to do with this wheel, we forgot to lubricate. So we can leave that there, we'll go ahead and lubricate it while it's on there. So like I said, I have this Tri-Flow Teflon lubricant. I'm going to use this. This is not the way I like doing it, like I said, without taking the shield off. But it's what I have to do. And I didn't mean to put this wheel together without showing you this, but we have these extra ones here I can do. So this is the best example to show is the shielding is off. You just take it, put a drop on each ball, go around the corners, and that should lubricate it nice. And then just spin it. Once you spin it a couple times, it really spreads it out on the bearing. Just lay it down, and it's gonna soak through the bearing onto the paper towel. But that's how you know that the bearing is, getting nice and lubricated. So you want to do that for everything. The ones that don't have the shields, I just kind of go around it a couple times while lightly squeezing it, and then I spin it just with my fingers, just to kind of work it in through the little gaps between the hub and the shield, and it should do the job. We'll wipe them off when we're done just to make sure that their outsides aren't covered in bearing lube. I mean, you can even wipe these with your fingers at this point because there's so much on your finger from doing it this way. Really invest in some better bearings if you're going to do this. If you have bearings that are really bad and don't spin, just get like China Bone. The reds are pretty decent. I used to use those a lot when I skateboarded. They're maybe $25, I think, at the time for a 8-pack, or what is it, 8-pack? Yeah, 8-pack for skateboarding. So for inline skates, you'd have to get 2 packs of those, but they're really good. They have a silicone outer shielding that pops off. You just use a little needle, stick it underneath the end, and it just pops right up, or a paper clip, or just any little thing you can get underneath there. So those are all soaking in. The one that already has the wheel in it, I'm just going to hit it on the outside like that. It'll soak in. You can see, once you hit the bearing on the shield, you can see the fluid start to seep right into the bearing through the crack like I was talking about. But anyway, I'll do that, flip it over, spin it around a little bit. Since we're already attached to the wheel, I didn't mean to do this, but it doesn't really matter. Flip it over, do the other side. Give a nice spin there. So I'm going to go ahead and dry off the excess on this one just because it's in the wheel. I'm going to go ahead and do the same for all of them. Just wipe the excess off. And now we can start assembling the wheels to put back onto the skate.
So this wheel was already done. It's lubricated. Wheel spins really nice. There's no real lag or anything. So lag, like on a fucking computer. Anyway, that should be a good wheel. That was my back wheel. I'm gonna go ahead and take my other back wheel, take a bearing, repeat the process I showed earlier. Take a spacer, another bearing, pop in, done. I like to spin my wheels once I get them going, just to see. So, alright, so those wheels are all set. They've been cleaned, lubricated. Now we just gotta put them back on the chassis, which we have here. So if you're not familiar with the part of skate, you got the chassis, the boot, laces obviously. Nah, that's pretty much it. Bolts, whatever. We've talked about the rest of it, the wheel, the bearing, the spacer. The hub of the wheel is the white part on the inside. And you get the rivets that hold the chassis onto the boot. And that's pretty much it. So we are going to assemble the skate back. So remember what I said is this is a high-low setup, so I have 76s in the front, 80s in the back. These were rotated last week, so I'm going to go ahead and keep them the way they were with the logo on the outside. Before I put these on, I'm going to wipe off my bolts because they were gross from the previous setup. So just reverse setup, take the bolt, and you want to make sure you line it up with the square bolt goes in the side of the chassis that has a square hole. And you might want to wipe off your chassis as well because your chassis could be dirty where the bearing and the bolt touch. So you might want to wipe off all those spots because again we want to avoid any contamination of the bearing that we just spent all this time and effort on cleaning. If you don't care, that's up to you, but wasting time is a pain. So take the square end, take your bearing, or your wheel, pop it in until the square is flush, and then put the other bolt in. And then when you tighten it, I usually tighten it as tight as I can at first. And when you do that, sometimes the wheel won't spin, or it'll spin very slow, as you can see there. What I do then is loosen it up a little bit, just to get a nice flow on the wheel. But you also want to make sure that there's no side-to-side movement in the wheel. So as long as you've got no side-to-side movement in the wheel, and you got a nice free flow, you should be all set. So I just want to put on the other wheels. loosen it up a little bit. No side-to-side action. A little loud. Probably honestly could be, you know, have a little better lubricant on it, but they're spinning really well. And that's all I can ask for. They're clean, they spin well. That's what I'm gonna go with. Alright, there you go. Skate is ready to go. Wheels are set. Something I didn't mention is that when you're in the middle of that, if these wheels were bad, you can always put them in new wheels, of course. But I'm going to use these for another week or so. These were just extra new wheels I'm on the show, in case somebody hadn't done that before. It's the same thing, just they're brand new. These were cheap, maybe like $2 a wheel, hockeytron.com. They seem to last pretty well on the outdoor surface I play on. I also have the indoor version of these wheels. I've used these one time all day at a tournament and they seem to last pretty well, but I have no intention of using them again unless I play indoors, so it's kind of pointless. But they have different hardnesses for different surfaces, and if you're going to be outdoor, I would recommend using one of these harder outdoor wheels. These are 82A, the black ones that I'm using, and up. So like the Lebedas, I think, are like 90. At least I think that's what they were. They're orange. Those are pretty popular. The Lebeda asphalts. Those are very good. They're about $6 a wheel. Sometimes you can find them for about $5, but these were a little bit cheaper. All right, well, we covered how to take a bearing out of a wheel, take the wheel off the chassis, obviously, to get to the bearing, how to take the bearing out of the wheel, how to clean the bearings, I talked about different types of bearings that have different types of shielding, and how to reassemble and lubricate your wheels and how to put them back on the chassis. We talked about the high-low setup, and we talked about rotation. So that pretty much covers everything on skate maintenance as far as your wheels go. Other things would pretty much be replacing your laces if they break. That's the same if you've ever replaced laces in your shoes. That's basically it, except for get waxed laces, they'll stay tied. That would be my highly recommended statement. So with that being said, that's going to be the end of this video. I would like to continue making more videos related to hockey or video games, two things that I like to do. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them below, and I will answer them as best I can. If you have any better tips to clean your skates than what I'm doing, let me know as well. I'm always, looking for better ways to do it. This is how I've been doing it since I was, like I said, like about 7 years old. So it's simple, other than this
this little bottle, that's new to me. I used to just throw them in a Tupperware container and shake them, but you know, very simple process now with the bottle, and you know, I'm open to any suggestions from people. So hopefully this helps you out, and have fun.